Hello，大家好，今天是2025年的10月23日，我们今天来一起看一下这个机构是怎么评价特斯拉财报的，然后最后我再说一下我个人的观点，不构成投资建议。那么现在开始。
Welcome to Pressure Points. Our topic is Tesla's September earnings, and as of this recording, shares are down just under 4% in after-hours trading. They entered the earnings call down just under 2%, so think of it as during the call, they traded off about 2%. Now, there's many topics I want to go through, and I'm going to start with the pressure point, which is the reason why I think that the stock is down, is related to the updated timing in terms of when the drivers are going to be taking out of the cars in Austin. It may seem like it is an obscure data point, but keep in mind, Tesla stock is up 35% over the past 3 months. The Nasdaq's up 9%. That expansion of market cap is built on investors getting increasingly optimistic about the size and the pace that they are going to be capitalizing on the Robotaxi fleet, FSD, and to a lesser extent, Optimus. And so any sort of little tweaks into how that the timing of getting to that future can have an impact on the stock in the near term. And so specifically what was said, this is on the first question on the call, was related to the timing of when the drivers will be removed from Austin. Austin, of course, is their first Robotaxi market. We haven't had many updates over the past few months on that. And Elon mentioned that by the end of the year, there will be some pockets of Austin that will not have drivers in it. And that may come across as a disappointment for some investors who were hoping that they weren't going to have drivers 2 months ago. And so the reality is that the reason why they're going to keep these drivers around, at least in some parts, is because safety is paramount. And Elon talked about this. I absolutely agree that if they have any sort of mess up, it is going to cause some significant brand damage, impact to consumer confidence, and therefore they just can't risk that. And so, well, it may be a little bit of a disappointment today. I think that the reality is it's absolutely the right call down the road. There were some positive updates related to Robotaxi. They talked about adding 8 to 10 new cities by the end of this year. Of course, they'll be very small, but 8 to 10 new cities. Previously, all they said was 20 to 23 by the end of 26. So that's a little bit of a clarity in terms of updated timing. And as far as production of the Cybercab, they said that's in Q2. Previously, they had said sometime in 2026. So it is in line with that, but a little bit earlier than what I thought. When they say 2026 before, I assume it's at the very end of 26, but Q2 would be a little bit earlier, and kind of ramping and volume production, they said hope at the end of 26. And so that's a positive sign in terms of how they feel more broadly about the Robotaxi rollout. They're adding cities, they're ramping production of the Cybercab, which they'll be taking most of that production for their own fleet initially. So I think that in aggregate, that was the pressure point and that timing of the drivers. But I think if you take a step back, it's reasonable that they're doing that. And they're also signaling that they are increasingly confident in terms of the bigger picture opportunity on Robotaxi. So I'm just going to look at my notes here and check off some other kind of important pieces. This is now we're moving beyond the pressure point. The question about the more affordable model, I'll just cut right to the chase. It's the cheaper Model Y and Model 3. That was most people's suspicion going into this call. There's a little bit of a hope that that wasn't going to be the case, that they would surprise us, but here we are. Those are the two, in fact, more affordable vehicles. Deliveries for next year. Now, we didn't get much on this. Elon did talk about over the next 24 months wanting to increase production as fast as they can, but that doesn't really help us get a sense about what deliveries are going to be next year. They gave the standard language around the broader economic environment. The street is in print at plus 17% growth. The whisper number is plus 10%. My thinking is it's probably going to be plus 5. I think we are going to grow next year, but I don't think it's going to be meaningful. We didn't get surprised by a new, more affordable model that was going to ramp earlier in the year that could get to that 17%. I suspect that the street numbers on deliveries are going to come down. Doesn't really matter to the stock, but just as a housekeeping item, the delivery outlook for next year is probably going to be more modest than what the street is modeling in. And two other topics, one in terms of margins. So the automotive gross margins ex credits, 15.4%. That was below the street at 15.6, but it was a sequential improvement from 15 in the June quarter. It was 12.5 in the March quarter. So 12.5 to 15, 15.4. It's moving in the right direction. And given the more affordable model is in fact the Model Y and Model 3, I suspect that margins are going to kind of remain in this level through the 2026. So, which gets to the cash piece, which continues to expand in a positive related. They've got $41 billion in cash right now. That's up $400 million quarter on quarter. It's a lot of cash and equivalents. That's about double, not quite double. Ford and GM have about $25 billion each, but they've got a lot of cash, a lot more cash than their traditional automotive, and just a DNA for going for innovation too. But that they do have plenty of cash. They've got the margins to support it to continue to go after this ambitious autonomy, these three autonomy goals. Which leads us to the final point, which is Optimus. Yes, I left it last because it is the furthest opportunity out there. Previously, I had said 1 million units in 5 years. He talked about, we got a little bit more clarity. We're going to have Optimus 3 shown for the first time in February, March, and hopefully, it was his words, in production by the end of the year. He also talked about Optimus 4 selling 10 million units, no time frame, and Optimus 5, 50 to 100 million units. Numbers get kind of goofy. Let's try to put some sensibility around this and just say they do 5 million units a year. If they're doing 5 million units a year at $25,000 each, that's about $125 billion in revenue. That effectively double the business where it's at today. Of course, it's going to be a decade plus. I mean, they're not doing 5 million cars a year. They're doing 2 million cars a year. It's going to be a long time before they're doing 5 million Optimus a year. So still not worth putting too much into the model, but still definitely worth owning the stock for that, if that makes any sense, because I think it still represents some nice optionality. On behalf of Pressure Points, I'm Gene. Bye for now.
特斯拉这个 earning 没什么好讲的哈，就是除了估值高一些，其他方向还可以哈。在我来看，它毛利率上涨，然后 cash 增加，这都是往好的方向。然后呢，虽然没有给出这个具体的时间，但是总体来说，这个 picture 还是我感觉是越来越清晰了哈。最起码是2026年啊，至于有没有可能再拖延呢？这个不好说。但是从市场的环境感觉呢，好像拖延也不是什么大问题啊。只要最终能够，只要马斯克最终不说出那句啊我不行，我做不出来哈，就这个就没问题哈。只要他一直拖，好像市场可以有无限的耐心，所以这个不是什么问题。时间不是问题，也就是说股价不是问题哈，反正这个股价早晚都是这个价格。那这里面就涉及到两个问题，第一个呢是回报率的问题，也就是说你这笔钱，这笔投资这笔钱放在这个特斯拉这个股票上面，一直到2026年的这里面，它给的最早的一个指引是2026年关于 Robotaxi 关于 Robotaxi 第2季度。那我们能不能看到这个是显然是一个可以刺激市场的一个东西。那其他的像比较便宜的 Model Y、Model 3，也是明年哈，比较便宜的话就会降低 margin， 降低利润率，降低 EPS，这也是一个连锁的反应。我感觉我对特斯拉的这个估值不需要进行调整哈，有兴趣的话可以看我以前对特斯拉的估值依然维持在350到250之间，也就是说300以下比较值得买，300以上不太值得买。现在400多块钱，我个人觉得非常高估哈。但是你如果说把它未来的所有东西都算进去的话，这个价格也还可以。但是在它实现这些目标之前呢， 那股价不会有什么太大变化哈。目前这个 PE No Gap PE 已经200多了哈，如果明年增长30%，哪怕是增长70%哈，我们看一下这个，看一下这个华尔街这边预期给的指引是多少？明年是 EPS 增长37%，也就是如果按就给它一个 PE 80好了哈，它现在 PE 256，还是不值这个钱哈，还是不值这个钱。虽然它未来有这个向上扩张的趋势哈，我们选一个最高的增长80%算哈，给它一个 PE 160哈，160的话还是不值这个钱哈，我就用160乘以 1.65哈，160乘以 1.65。那到今年为止呢，我觉得264块钱啊，如果到明年的话2.28，到明年的话364块钱啊，那基本也就是我说的250到350之间这么一个价格哈，现在具体算出来就264到364之间，反正你觉得如果以现在400多块钱的价格，你拿在手里，拿在明年没有回报没问题的话呢？那就没问题，但是你如果说，哎，我想有个几十的增长哈，我觉得够呛了哈，这个钱可能要放到一个其他的一个地方，然后可以实现增长，一直放在这个特斯拉这个位置呢，我看看技术图的话，看一下技术图的话，这里显然是一个 sell 的一个区间啊，看一下如果拉一个图，先它这次 earning 没有突破这个阻力区啊，正常应该是放量暴涨啊，那就是一个明显的信号，没有放量暴涨，那继续盘整呗，如果往下拉的话，还是300多块钱这个位置啊，360、260中间值取个316这个位置啊，就差不多316啊，打一个信号，我在这设一个点，看看能不能实现316一个中间值啊。到时候跟大家一起见证一下316块钱，看这里能不能实现。然后下一个 earning 呢，如果好的话，那就差不多在这个位置啊，可能会再上一上下一下，反正每个季度会稍微有点变化。我觉得特斯拉会给更好的机会入场，目前423啊，我就先不考虑了。那总的来说呢，这个分析师他给的特斯拉的这个指引，我觉得非常中规中肯啊，完全没有说说有这个过于乐观或者过于悲观的情绪。目前呢，这里面不利的因素主要是因为特斯拉呢最近这半年来说涨了35%，那这个纳斯达克涨了9%哈，这个获利了结是应该会发生的一个现象，所以暂时这个盘整，我觉得可能出于这个机构在抛售筹码。那关于这个第一个试验田就是 Austin No Driver 这个事情呢，我觉得早晚都会实现的哈，所以也不用过于担心。那接下来这些 chip model， 至于它的毛利率、利润率呢，那个就非常不清晰了，以后具体再说。然后关于他们的增长呢，也是仁者见仁，智者见智。这个利润率从17%到5%这么大的差别，做估值也没有任何意义的哈。我们就是还是按照本梦比来估值吧，就是300给它一个 top 上限啊，350、364之前啊都没有必要去364在这儿哈，现在手放的这个位置，在这个位置哈，在这之前我觉得都没有必要去碰它，再往下的话就是人形机器人也没有什么值得说的，因为他给的这个当初卖车也没卖这么多哈，现在机器人他说要卖5 to 100 million， 然后呢汽车才卖2 million， 所以说没有什么可比性。那总的来说，这个特斯拉这个财报这季度还是有起色的，希望它一点点变好，也是希望呢，投资人能够尽快得到回报。那好，谢谢大家，这一期就到这，希望大家喜欢，点赞、订阅、分享，我们下期再见，拜拜。